Welcome back to the V's Showdown. Today we've got one of the wildest, most action-packed what-if battles we've ever done. Titans clash, powers awaken, and the Monsterverse will never be the same after this one. Strap in, because you're about to witness absolute chaos unfold. 2027. Kong lands on the ground running from the wart dogs chasing him through hollow earth, with a new metal hand due to Dagon cutting it off. As he jumps the canyon, the wart dogs follow. Kong reaches a cliff and looks back at the wart dogs. He roars at them. The wart dogs charge, and Kong, with his metal hand charging with electricity, slams it onto the ground, making a trap he made go off, and makes most of the wart dogs fall into the pig getting impaled. Kong grabs a log and throws it down the pig, which it pulls on the vines and makes the sides of the cliff collapse onto the wart dogs. After the dust clears, just more wart dogs climb the rubble. One jumps at Kong, but he catches it, holds it above his head, and while the wart dog whimpers, he rips it in half, roaring at the others, which run away. Back on the surface, a claw stabs into a building as Scylla attacks Rome. Dagon steps onto land and roars. Scylla turns around and roars back at Dagon and charges. Dagon charges back as Scylla rears up above Dagon, where Dagon grabs Scylla's leg and throws her into a building. Dagon runs over and jumps in the air, landing on Scylla. Scylla tries to stab her leg into Dagon, but he grabs it and breaks it backwards. His dorsal plates charges with a crimson glow as he shoots a beam right at Scylla's face, making her explode. He roars into the sky in victory. Dagon heads back into the water. Days later, Godzilla rises from the water on the shore of France as he goes to the nuclear power plant and starts to absorb all the radiation as jets fly in and fire at him, trying to stop him. Godzilla stops and hits a jet out of the air. As his body glows blue, he releases a pulse that disables all the jets, making them fall into the ground. Godzilla moves to the shore and jumps into the water, heading to the Arctic. As he swims, the water gets colder as he reaches an ice wall, but he can see frost-vark bodies littered about. Whoever is here, they killed all of them and absorbed their DNA. Godzilla shoots his atomic breath at the ice, waking up something as it breaks through the ice. Tiamat rushes out, now a light blue instead of her dark blue. She roars at Godzilla as she swims at Godzilla and bites down onto his shoulder as Godzilla grabs her and rips her off. Tiamat circles around and opens her mouth as she starts to absorb all of Godzilla's heat. Godzilla shakes it off and swims at Tiamat, grabbing her jaw and forcing it closed. Tiamat wraps around Godzilla, trying to restrict him, making his let go of her jaw, and she starts to suck the heat of him again, but Godzilla charges up and shoots a beam at her, slicing her to bits. Godzilla swims over to the ice, burying himself in the biggest iceberg he could find. Underwater, Dagon's eyes snap open as he hears the same thing that Godzilla is hearing, the SOS from the Iwi. So he needs to juice up a bit. So he starts to head to the Bilibino nuclear power plant in Russia. When he makes landfall, the Russian military shoots at him, but he completely ignores them and goes to the nuclear power plant. He absorbs the radiation and his dorsals glow brighter. He goes back into the water. In the Arctic, the ice cracks and breaks as Godzilla rises from the ice, now being a light blue. His skin is rougher, tougher, and his hands are more claw-like, made for digging. He is now Glacier Godzilla. He roars up into the sky, ready to fight as he jumps back into the water. In hollow earth, Shimo steps out of the lava, roaring at Kong. She charges up and shoots her frostbite blast at Kong, but Kong dodges it and grabs his axe, briefly charging it with electricity before he blocks another blast. As the ice travels down the axe handle and reaches his metal right hand, he breaks off the ice by charging it with electricity, but the same cannot be said for his left hand. He drops his axe with his left hand covered in ice as it shatters, and he runs out of the cave entrance. A few hours later, Kong emerges from hollow earth in Egypt, now with the beast glove on his left hand. Godzilla on a cliff senses Kong and jumps off into the water. Dagon rises from the water, stepping onto the sand of Egypt. Dagon roars at Kong and he roars back. Dagon charges and tackles Kong through a pyramid, and Kong lands on the other side. Kong punches Dagon in the head, making Dagon stumble a bit. Suddenly, Kong gets rammed into by Godzilla. Kong stumbles back as he looks at Dagon and Godzilla. Dagon charges and tries to bite Kong, but he dodges and left hooks Dagon, then uppercuts him. Dagon slams into Kong, making his back slam into a pyramid. Dagon's mouth glows red as he shoots his atomic breath, as Kong climbs the pyramid, dodging it. As Dagon tries to get Kong, he jumps off the pyramid and lands on the next one. Dagon stops shooting as Godzilla runs at the pyramid. He gets to the other side to only get dropkicked by Kong, making Godzilla go falling back. Kong gets back to see a blue glow before he ducks behind pyramid, dodging Godzilla's blue atomic breath. Kong runs past it as it slices through the stone. Kong comes out to the other side to get rammed down to the ground as Dagon slams his foot down onto Kong. Dagon charges up before being sent flying by a beam of light. Mothra lands on the Sphinx. Godzilla gets up and all four of them roar in the air. The wall freezes as Scar King breaks it down, looking up, seeing the portals. But then he hears the rumble, and Ball lands on the ground, causing a shockwave. Godzilla, Dagon, and Kong come out from the ground, running at Shimo and Scar King as they jump. Gravity gets disabled, then all go into the air. Godzilla jumps from rock to rock, tail whipping great apes as Kong fights Scar King. Shimo shoots her ice beam, freezing Godzilla. Dagon sees this, and as he charges up, he curls into a ball and shoots his atomic breath at the air, the force pushing him back, and rams into Shimo back, first making her stop, and Godzilla busts out of the ice as gravity gets enabled, and they all fall through the hollow Earth portal. Scar King and Shimo lands on the surface, and Scar King gets punched in the face by Kong as Dagon charges at Shimo, tackling her, throw buildings as Godzilla grabs Scar King and opens his mouth, sucking out Scar King's heat. Scar King commands Shimo to stop Godzilla, and Shimo rams into Godzilla, making him stop and go flying. Godzilla charges up, his whole body glowing blue as he goes supercharged. He shoots a beam at Scar King that slices the whip, and Scar King jumps from building to building trying to dodge the beam. Dagon is about to destroy the crystal, but Shimo rears up and tries to overpower Dagon, but he catches her front limbs, holding her away. Dagon shoots his beam at Shimo, making her fall backwards. Dagon shoots his beam at the crystal, making it explode. Kong grabs Scar King and holds him up as Shimo blasts him. As he freezes, Kong smashes Scar King, killing him. And Dagon goes back into the water, so does Godzilla, and Kong and Shimo goes back to Hollow Earth. Weeks later in Antarctica, the ground shakes as vines break through the ice. The Arctic is sinking. Dagon stops mid-swim, sensing something that is not right at all. Dagon turns around and heads straight to the Arctic. As he steps onto the snowy land, he looks around at the white wasteland until he looks to his left, a cliff. An icy cliff that goes straight down. Half of Antarctica is gone. A vine suddenly bites down onto Dagon's leg, making him fall to the ground. Dagon looks back as the ground shakes and something big and green comes out of the ground, Biolente. She roars at Dagon. Dagon gets up and charges at Biolente, but vines come up behind him and grab onto him and throw him into an icy mountain. Dagon charges up, but his mouth gets snapped shut by vines wrapping around it. But suddenly, a blue bast hits Biolente's back, making her yell in pain. She goes back into the ground as Godzilla steps where she just was, looking down into the pit, and he roars down it. Suddenly, Biolente comes up behind him and bites down onto Godzilla and throws him, making him skid across the icy land. A red beam shoots out beside Biolente, but a vine wall breaks through the ground, blocking it, but it cuts right through it, hitting Biolente's side, making her roar out in pain as vines wrap around Dagon's body and throw him into the pit where Biolente just was. Dagon falls and falls down the pit, all the way to Hollow Earth, right through it, and gets stuck in the core of the sun of Hollow Earth, directly stuck in it. Godzilla roars at Biolente and charges at her as he jumps into the air and lands on her and claws and rips her apart as he shoots his atomic breath straight at her, making her blow up. Godzilla roars in victory, but then he hears it. And lands on the surface. As Godzilla jumps into the water, Dagon stays behind and Biolante's golden ashes float over to Dagon, and as he absorbs them, he starts to glow a golden orange as he jumps into the water. As they make their way back to Boston and they step onto land, they see him. Mecha King Ghidorah, not made by Apex, no, but made by a new company, Havoc, or humanity's advanced vanguard for offensive control. Mecha Ghidorah both side heads intact, but the middle and body being fully robotic. Mecha Ghidorah before attack, he shoots two beams up in the air that hits the moon, which makes it break in half. The two side heads stop shooting, as the middle one shoots a red beam that grabs the moon chunks and makes them rain down on Earth. Dagon shoots a golden orange beam Mecha Ghidorah, which he flies up and dodges, and shoots all three of his beams at Dagon, making him go flying back. As the moon chunks get closer to the Earth, Godzilla charges up and going supercharged already, and shooting his beam at the chunks, breaking them apart small enough to make them burn up in the atmosphere. Mecha Ghidorah shoots out missiles that hit Godzilla, making him stop firing, as Ghidorah releases anchors that lash onto Godzilla and brings him into the air, and drops him as Mecha Ghidorah flies back down and shoots his gravity beams at Dagon, making him go stumble. Mecha Ghidorah shoots his gravity beams at the two moon chunks and brings them down onto the Earth, ready to collide with the Earth. As Godzilla falls, he sees the moon heading to Earth. He knows he's nothing strong enough to stop them. Dagon looks up and sees the same thing, but he doesn't think the same thing. Dagon charges and charges his whole body, glowing a golden orange, going supercharged, and he shoots a spiral beam at a moon chunk as golden orange cracks go down the surface of the moon. It explodes mid-air before it hits, sending a massive shockwave that Mecha Ghidorah fall out of the sky, and makes Dagon fall down, and makes Godzilla land in a different place from where he was dropped. Dagon gets back up, charging back up to destroy the other moon half. He shoots the spiral beam again, but Mecha Ghidorah blocks it in the sky, shooting all three of his gravity beams, making Dagon, an evolved Mecha Ghidorah, stuck in a beam clash. Godzilla stands up, looks up at the air, seeing the moon and the beam clash. He can't do anything, for once he is the weakest. Monarch is now out of ideas. They never planned for this, but Mothra lands on a Monarch base holding a nuke. And at that point, Monarch understands what she's trying to say. Godzilla can't do anything except one thing. Godzilla gets up and does the alpha call, waking up and calling all Titans to come to Boston to help kill Mecha Ghidorah. First to respond is Rodan, flying out of this volcano and not wasting a second getting to Boston. As he flies at Mecha Ghidorah shoots a missile that hits Rodan, making him miss Mecha Ghidorah and crash into the ground. Next to get there is Behemoth, but he can't really do anything. But then Mothra, a very juiced up Mothra, lands in front of Godzilla. Godzilla knows what she wants him to do, but he couldn't not to Mothra, but she insists it's to save the planet. So with that, Godzilla charges up and shoots his atomic breath at Mothra, killing her, making her powerful golden ashes rain down onto Godzilla. And he charges up, an orange glow coming from him as building melts around him, becoming thermonuclear. He shoots a beam at the beam clash that slightly helps overpower Mecha Ghidorah's gravity beam. The two beams hit Mecha Ghidorah, making him crash onto the ground. All the other Titans that arrive that are grounded run over and start to stab and claw at Mecha Ghidorah. Dagon charges back up and shoots his atomic breath at the other moon half that makes it also explode. They continue to beat on Mecha Ghidorah until Methuselah gets held in the air by Mecha Ghidorah's gravity beams and literally ripped apart with blood splattering everywhere. Mecha Ghidorah's middle head bites down onto Behemoth's neck and shoots a red gravity beam right through his throat, making his head fall to the along with body falling the opposite way. Mecha Ghidorah's spiked tails stab into the Queen Muto, ripping her open, making her organs spill out. Mecha Ghidorah stands back up and roars at Dagon and Godzilla. They roar back as they change. They collide in the middle, with Dagon catching two of Mecha Ghidorah's heads as Godzilla goes to rip off Mecha Ghidorah's wings. The middle head's gravity beam grabs onto Dagon and throws him into buildings. Mecha Ghidorah tail whips Godzilla, making him fall to the ground. Rodan lands on Mecha Ghidorah's back and pecks and bites at the middle head, managing to rip it off. Then he gets stabbed in the back by Mechaghidorah's tails and thrown into a building. Dagon charges at Mechaghidorah, and his whole body glows golden orange as Godzilla gets up and charges at Mechaghidorah, his body glowing bright orange as they both release all their energy into a pulse, making a giant explosion. After the dust clears, they stand in the ruins, and after a long-fought battle they have won. Godzilla and Dagon roar up into the air in victory. And that's the end. Titans rose, some fell, and the battlefield will never forget what went down today. Let me know your favorite moment in the comments below. Until next time, stay epic.